everyone. This is Dee with Elaborate Disguise, and there's just been something that I've been thinking about lately that maybe you could relate to, or maybe someone that you know needs to hear or that you need to hear. So I'm just going to talk about an experience that I had. It was sort of an epiphany, and it was a decade or two ago. But it really changed my way of looking at things, and it really changed me. And I think it made me calmer and more peaceful, and also helped me realize that I don't have to do things for other people all the time. I don't have to please people all the time. So I'm going to go into that little story, and I hope it can make sense, at least help somebody. I hope it helps you. When my kids were pretty young, I have two, and I think maybe my daughter was 4 or 5, and so my son was maybe 9 or 10. We would, with my husband and his family, we would go to Canada, and it was a lovely time. We would be in a cabin, and my mother and father-in-law would be either in the same cabin or whatever, but we'd cook meals together, and it was a really good time. And occasionally my sister and her husband would come up. One particular year, when my sister-in-law and her husband were there, it was my turn. We rotated when to cook dinners, which was really good, so no one was stuck cooking all the time. And it was my turn. And my sister-in-law and her husband were vegetarian, and my kids, they're kids, so they had particular wants and preferences. So when my husband and I went out to go shopping to pick up dinner, I worked myself into a tizzy, and I stress myself. I wanted to make a nice vegetarian meal, but I also, in my head at the time, thought it had to be something that my kids would eat. And I didn't want it to be too difficult. Well, not being a vegetarian, it's hard to think of meals that are going to work for everybody. And I really wanted it to be a good meal, and I wanted to make them happy. But in the process of thinking all about the 2 grown adults who were vegetarians, I forgot about myself. I forgot about my 2 children and my husband, who I'm truly responsible for. And I just didn't know what I was going to make. And as I walked through the grocery store thinking, I could do this, and this would be nice, and this would be fancy, and they'll like this maybe, I just became super stressed out, so that it became this chore, and I started to get angry, and I started to be resentful. And then at some point, as I'm grumbling and walking through the grocery store, getting mad because, why do I have to cook this food like this, and my kids aren't going to eat it, and complain. I don't know what snapped inside me, but something snapped in a good way, and I just paused, and I realized there was no one who told me I had to do this. My mother and father-in-law didn't say, you have to go make this special meal for the 2 grown vegetarians. The vegetarians didn't say, you have to make me some special meal, And as I realized that This was of my own making. It was a stress I had put upon myself because I wanted to make someone happy, and I wanted it to look like I was caring about what they wanted. But then I also realized if I went back and I made this meal with all the anger that was inside me, self-created, would I be able to enjoy the meal? Would it come off that I was happy at the meal? Would that ruin the meal? Because then here I am, an angry cook, making this for them and grumbling the whole time, and then being resentful as I would sit down to eat with them and eat with everybody else, with no one telling me I had to do any of that other than just prepare a meal. That's all I had to do. So after I gathered myself and realized I didn't have to do all of this, I picked up some veggie burgers that I knew they liked, and then maybe hamburgers and hot dogs I think we got for the kids and us because we all liked them. And then we just went back and threw it on the grill, and everybody ate their meal. Nobody complained, and I wasn't stressed out, and I was kind of like, wow, this worked out okay. After I realized I didn't have to stress out about that. But life is kind of like that, and sometimes for me, maybe for you too, a lot of this stress we put upon ourselves. Now, some situations, granted, they are really stressful. I'm not saying there isn't stress out there, but where we are able to, we should try not to add to it. And that's what I did. And I used to do that too, and maybe a lot of the folks who have people over every now and then will understand this. I used to when I would want to have someone over, I would clean like a crazy person. I mean, there are jokes all online about the moms going crazy and, their heads spinning around as they're cleaning and preparing for the guests. And then by the time the guests are here, you're exhausted and you're kind of angry, not necessarily at them, but you're angry because you spent all day cleaning, and most likely nobody cares. Nobody cares. When they walk in your house, they don't go, wow, good job cleaning. It just isn't like that. I mean, most people, I know myself, if I go over to someone's house and it's a little untidy, I'm like, wow, I can relate to that. I don't look at them and I don't think, wow, she's a slob, he's a slob. I don't. I'm like, wow, I'm not the only one. So, we put these things on ourselves, and we just need to step back. Think about what it is that it was important. For me in Canada, it was enjoying a meal and taking the burden off of any one person, particularly my mother-in-law, because she needed a break. She worked and cooked all the time. So it was to help her, and that was helping her, doing a meal. But then to show up and be happy about it and be able to enjoy everyone's company and not be a grump. And I didn't get, I used to get migraines too, which I think was a lot self-inflicted, among other things. I had other things too that caused them. But stress was one of them. And once I think I backed off of that, I had a lot fewer migraines, headaches. And the same thing with inviting people over. Now if I'm having a big party, I'm going to tidy up a little bit. But if I just want to have a couple friends over or a friend over, I'm not going to run around with like a chicken with my head cut off trying to clean everything up. I mean, there may be dust everywhere. The floor is probably not vacuumed, and maybe there are some dishes in the sink too. So, oh well, you're coming to see me, right? Not my clean house. So anyway, I'm hoping that this resonates. And I'm hoping that you can see if you did do this, you're not alone. And that if you can find the peace in yourself to convince yourself and understand, nobody externally, at least in my situation, now sometimes you might come into people who are like that. In that case, I'd say leave them in the dust. But most people aren't going to put that on you. We put it on ourselves. We put expectations that aren't necessary, and then it kind of ruins the experience that we really wanted to have. So with that said, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I hope that this can at least let people know you're not alone. I've done it. I do it. I don't do it as much anymore. And try to be easy on yourself. Try to forgive yourself. Give yourself some breathing room. And focus on the joy, the interaction with people that you want to be with. And let everything else just go. Let it slide. Because in the end, you're going to remember the moment and enjoy it, and the people aren't going to miss what wasn't there. They're not going to miss the meal that you didn't run yourself into a panic to create, or the house that you clean from top to bottom and now are exhausted. They're not going to miss that. But they might miss you being present for them and with them, because that's what they're coming for. If they're coming to your house, they're coming to be with you. So take that for what it's worth, and have a blessed day. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.